So we understand right now the biggest advances in the one world government is what's going on with the WHO, the World Health Organization. This is the biggest thing that we've been watching right now because we understand that there's a multi-pronged layer to this WHO deal that's been going on. We understand that there's the WHO pandemic treaty, which is going to take sovereignty away from pretty much every WHO member involved, not pretty much, but it will, giving control over to Tedros over there. Then there's also the health regulations that's going to strip us individually of our rights and our dignity and all that, and basically remove all privacy and rights that we have. So there's multi-pronged there, but there's also the other aspect of the world police aspect, the military aspect, which really isn't getting talked about very much, and that is the UN global shocks system. So if a pandemic was to hit, a financial system was to hit, if something like that was to hit, they can send in the UN Blue Helmets to be a world police force in that aspect. So there's multi aspects to this UN WHO deal that's being done. So we're seeing this formation of this one world beast system. It's the three pillars. We've always talked about it. In case you don't remember, one world government, one world economy, and one world religion. Those are the three pillars that will raise up and boost and create the Antichrist beast system. And we're seeing some major stuff going on with the one world government, especially since the treaty and the amendments are supposed to be adopted May of next year. Because if you guys didn't realize, no country opposed them this year at the World Health Assembly. So, and one of the main goals with this one world government and to get this all going, one of the main goals is to create a global passport. Now, this is something that they haven't been hiding. They've been talking about it. They've been wanting to do it. We've just kind of been waiting because they've been talking about it since 2020, since this whole thing happens. It's happened. It's been out in the public, but we've been waiting to see how they're going to implement it. And so they want to create a global passport system to track and restrict people, all in the name of health safety. Of course, it's all about your health. It's all about your safety. We're going to take away your rights and we're going to restrict your movement, all for the sake of you. We're doing it for you. No, you're not. That's a big lie. But that's how they like to disguise this stuff. It's always about us and our health and our security and our safety and protecting us and all that stuff. No. But that's what they do. And so this is, again, no big surprise because last year at the B20 summit, I believe it was this guy's from Indonesia, he specifically talked about a digital passport to match the IHRs, the International Health Regulations, those amendments that they want to do. So if you haven't seen it, check this out.
So let's have a digital health certificate acknowledged by WHO. If you have been vaccinated or tested properly, then you can move around. So for the next pandemic, instead of stopping the movement of the people 100%, which clogged the economy globally, you can still provide some movement of the people. Indonesia has achieved, G20 country has agreed to have this digital certificate using WHO standard, and we will submit into the next World Health Assembly in Geneva as the revision to international health regulation. So hopefully for the next pandemic, we can still see some movement of the people, some movement of the goods, and movement of the economy.
You guys hear that? He was talking about they're going to add this into the World Health Assembly and connect it to the IHRs, which that's what just came to pass this May. They just did that. And so we've been sitting here going, okay, you were talking about how you're going to do it. Are you going to do it? Did they do it? Well, they did. The European Commission and the WHO, the WHO, have announced a digital health partnership. They have combined together, they have collaborated, and they have begun to do this starting this month. So starting this month, June, this month, the WHO will adopt the EU digital COOF verification or certification to establish a global system to enable mobility of citizens during the health crisis. So like you said, during the next pandemic, they're going to have these passports available that are going to basically say, if you don't play ball, if you don't play game, they're going to restrict your movement. So what we've been seeing, what we saw in Europe when it was going on in like 2021, where there was cops walking around asking people at like restaurants and stores to see their papers, the papers, please. Well, that's what they're doing for everybody. When this IHR amendments get adopted, this is going to be forced upon everybody. When you see what was going on in China, in order to work, in order to get out of their 15-minute cities, that's right, China has their 15-minute cities already there, to do anything, you have to scan your passport to show that you're either tested or you got the vitamins and you had to do all this stuff and yada, yada, yada. Well, this is now going to be a part of this IHR that's going to be adopted, and they're working with the EU to get this done, and it starts now. It starts now. This is the foundation of the WHO Global Digital Health Certification Network, or the GDHCN. Them and their titles always got to be too long. And more, they announced that there's going to be more programs that will be a part of this. They'll implement it, a part of this network. We don't know what they are yet. We can take guesses, but I'm not going to sit here and speculate. We don't know for sure what they're going to be, but we do know this passport is going to be a part of it. So if we take a look at the covers of these things, we're not going to go through them. They're extremely long and drawn out, and we'd be here forever if we were to go through both of them. So I'm just going to show you the covers. You can find each one on their respective websites, the EU's and the WHO's website. You can check them out, but those are the covers. And these are the initiatives that they're basing this thing off of. And utilizing the EU Global Health Strategy, that's the one right there on the left, and the WHO Member States Global Strategy on Digital Health, that's the one there on the right. This initiative will follow the agreement that was signed by Commissioner Kyriakides and WHO Director General Tedros on December 2nd, 2022. So this was already being implemented. It was being worked on at least since December. Again, I'm not going to speculate and say, obviously we know it's going to be, they were working on this earlier, but just for the sake of making sure we're on pace here, that's when they assigned this. And when they signed it, that was to agree on this global health system. So the adoption will feature the EU's digital COOF certificate. It's digital. So here we go with a digital system, a digital passport, probably going to be connected to a digital ID. If this won't be turned into a digital ID, that's something to also think of that they could do pretty easily. But will feature the EU's digital COOF certificate, which allowed free movement within the borders for those who took the vitamin or had their tests came back clean and all that stuff. Like we just talked about, the police walking around, papers, police. It's like 1930s Germany, guys. That's what we're heading towards. The WHO, the WHO, will expand upon the EU system by creating the Global Health Certification Network to allow world, check this word out, convergence. This is their words. This is from their website. This is from the EU's website. It says to allow world convergence. What have we been seeing? The convergence of prophecy, the convergence of all the things that Scripture told us was going to happen. We're all seeing it now. And so it's interesting when you see words like that, because that's a unique word. It really is. It's a unique word. And so this is what they said. So I'll start back over just because I had to make a little rabbit trail there. The WHO will expand upon the EU system by creating the Global Health Certification Network to allow world convergence of digital certificates, or AKA passports. They like to spruce it up, make it sound better, make it sound more enticing by saying certificates, but in actuality, it's a passport. And, I mean, if you want to get anywhere, you're going to need that thing, so it's a passport. And so if we just take a look at some of the quotes from both the Tedros and Commissioner Kyriakides, it's some interesting stuff they have to say. This is from the Commissioner, Stella Kyriakides. She is the Commissioner for Health and Food Safety for the EU. And she said the EU digital COOF certificate, got to be careful, has been an essential tool for safe travel during the COOF pandemic. In the emblematic of the European Health Union that can deliver tangible benefits to citizens. With this landmark partnership, with the WHO, we are scaling up EU innovation in digital health to deliver safe mobility for all citizens across the globe. Guys, this is straight up global control. This is straight up global dominion. They want full ability in order to restrict every single person's travel. That's what they're doing with this. There's no better partner than the WHO. Sorry, there's no better partner than the WHO to advance the work we started in the EU and further develop global digital health solutions. Let's see what Tedros got to say here. Building on the EU's highly successful digital certification network, their digital passports, WHO aims to offer all WHO member states across an open source digital health tool, which is based on the principles of, here we go, equity, innovation, transparency, data protection, and privacy. You always got to have those fancy keywords, those code words everybody loves. New digital health products in development aim to, digital health products. We don't know what they are, but they know that they're there. In development aim to help people everywhere receive quality health services quickly and effectively. Keep in mind, guys, this is, again, we're not talking future anymore like we've been talking. We're not talking future. We're talking now. This system is live now. It's here now. They've got it ready. And so they just need something to happen, if you catch my drift, in order to roll it out and get it out. It's coming. They've got the system. So all they have to do is pull the trigger on it. There's a lot of these things already out there right now where they've got their stuff ready. It's sitting there ready to go. They're just not ready to pull the trigger yet. Just like the financial stuff. That's ready. It's been ready. They're just not ready to pull the trigger yet. And so they're trying to get everything ready to go because they want to do a full demo all at the same time. It's just like if you're going to take down a building and you've got 4 charges on each system, you're not going to blow one and then wait to blow the other ones. No, you've got to do all 4 at the same time. So they're getting everything ready to go, and they've got this passport thing ready. So this will become, again, operational when they're ready to do it. It's already here. It's good to go. And it's also interesting that they just proposed a simulation exercise. We just talked about that on Saturday, a simulation exercise to make sure that the treaty and the amendments are ready to go and be introduced. So there's some interesting stuff going on as far as this goes, but everybody's been asking, when's this passport coming? Well, it's here. And they did it silently. I bet you didn't hear that on the mainstream news or anything like that. They just quietly pushed this through. Didn't tell anybody. They put it on their website, but that's about it. And it's here. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So we've got that. We've got the partnership with the EU and the WHO. And it's also interesting it's the EU too, because we know that there's going to be the revived Roman Empire that's going to be popping up too. And they're using that system. That's something to think of as well on that. But we've got that. We've got the passport coming through. But then we've also got the fact of they're working on the infodemic as well. So along with that collaboration that they've got going on, and it's being about the digital passports, the WHO is bringing about the PRET initiative. PRET stands for Preparedness and Resilience for Emerging Threats. So again, we're not going to dig through this whole thing. It's a long, drawn out, whole bunch of stuff that we don't need to talk about. But there's the cover of it. You can find it on their website. But here it is. And so while it's supposed to be about respiratory pandemics, as you can see right there on the top, there's a lot of focus on equality, gender, and misinformation on this thing. This is their infodemic. We know this is something that they've been wanting to do, control the narrative, quiet those who ask questions, quiet those who bring about truth, and do all that stuff. And it's a heavy topic in this document that's supposed to be about respiratory pandemics. Interesting. In terms of misinformation, the PRET lines up perfectly with trying to censor any information that goes against their narrative. Again, this is no shock to us. We've been seeing bans and censors and removals, and anybody who's doing anything with truth and exposing things, they've been hitting us. But then there's also the fact of they're sending out their own narrative, their own propaganda to all this stuff. Just check this out. This is a video that comes from the FDA. It's about misinformation and stuff, but check out the subject that it specifically chooses to talk about. This is the FDA now. Check out the subject that they specifically point out, and what have we been hearing lately?
Are you prepared? The internet is going down later this week. It's going to be crazy. Find out more below.
The internet is
Going down later this week.
It's going to be crazy.
The real truth the government refuses to tell you. Previous account banned for sharing the truth. Wait a minute. This is misinformation. You may be spreading misinformation unintentionally. Confirm the credibility of a source before contributing to the conversation. To see how FDA is addressing misinformation, check out our Rumor Control webpage.
I mean, you guys want to talk about just propaganda. I mean, you got the cute Italian music going on behind the thing and stuff, and they're trying to do all these. It's just, but if you notice, they specifically talk about the internet is going to go down. The internet's going down. What have we been hearing a lot lately? We've been hearing a lot about the internet going down. We've been hearing that a lot. It's just interesting that that's what they would choose on that. But that's just straight up propaganda, basically saying if you're sharing anything that doesn't fit with our rumor control website, then it's misinformation. That's what they're saying. It's absolute garbage, and how anybody can follow that is just mind blowing. But it's part of the game, and people do follow it. People do believe it. It's crazy. In the pandemic treaty, it speaks on social listening. It specifically says social listening, which means surveillance upon communication channels to create counter information and to censor. So a lot of the time, it's not just banning people, it's not just censoring people, but it's learning what people are talking about. It's about learning what people are throwing out there, what type of information that they're giving, so they can collect data on that, on how to create their own counter information on top of it. So this is a big information war. This is a big psychological war where they're not going to ban everybody yet. They're not banning everybody yet, but they're gathering information on what truth tellers are talking about and putting out there, and then they're gathering that information and creating their own counter information as well. So if we head to the pandemic treaty, because that's where this word comes from, Article 18, Section B, it specifically says conduct regular community outreach, social listening, and periodic analysis and consultations with civil society organizations and media outlets, there's your social media, to identify the prevalence and profiles of misinformation. So they're gathering information, which contribute to design communications and messaging strategies for the public to counteract misinformation. Like we're just talking about, it's about how do we gather information? What are they talking about so we can counter it? Counteract misinformation, disinformation, and false news, thereby strengthening, there we go, public trust and promoting adherence to public health and social measures. So this is about the information war. Gathering information, it's not all just ban everybody, censor everybody, no, but it's about collecting information so they can continue to do what they do. You know how much data and information that these guys have on us? Like I said, I'm not going to get into it, but you just talk about the digital twins and they know more about us than we know about ourselves. It's absolutely nuts. But that comes from the pandemic treaty. That's what they want to do. They want to open that channel for social listening. And so if we get back to the PRET, if we get back to that document, it even speaks on an infodemic and tools using none other than AI to social listen. So if we take a look at the PRET, we talk about this. It's pretty interesting. This is why up at the top, this is why the WHO and the partners developed the approach of infodemic management, which encompasses risk communication and community engagement. So there we go with the community engagement again. We're back to that, adding additional tools and approaches to manage it more efficiently in the 21st century. Now, if we take a look at this, we see point one, listen to concerns, communicate risks, and translate science, promote resilience to potentially harmful elements of the infodemic, such as misinformation, disinformation, engage and empower communities. But here, right here, new tools and approaches for social listening, here we go with the social listening, matching up with the pandemic treaty, have been developed using new technologies such as artificial intelligence to listen to population concerns on social media. That's the platform Ears that was developed by the WHO. AI. It's crazy. It's crazy, guys. If you want to read more about it, you can go and check it out, but I just wanted to point that out specifically. AI to social listen and to control the narrative. Gather information to control the narrative. It's right there. It's all interconnected. That's what they want to do. We know the eventual just ban everybody is coming, but for right now, they're trying to gather more information. They're trying to gather data. So with all this, and we've talked about this before, but this is the progression of the nudge units. I'm not sure how many people have heard of the nudge units before, but nudge units have been developed globally to manipulate social media and news outlets and to send subtle mental nudges to people to take the vitamin or to accept the narrative that they're giving. So this isn't the blatant stuff that we see in media where you just look at it and you're just sitting there knowing that they're lying through their teeth. This is the manipulation of like social media, whether it's manipulating your feed and the advertisements that you see, or if you search for specific things, they're going to show you certain web pages first. They do it in a subtle way where subconsciously your mind is taking it. This is the 5th generation warfare. This is the psychological warfare. It's a big thing that's being done now. A lot of people like to say, hey, you're crazy, but no, this is actually what's going on. And there are nudge units all over the world. They were developed during this 2020 event. And we talked specifically about the UK one because the UK one's really getting a lot of what's the word? Display. That's not the word I was thinking of, but it's getting talked about a lot. We'll just say that. And so this is part of their nudge unit. And like I was talking about, this is about manipulation and whatnot. And so I'm sure a lot of you have seen this before. This came out about 2 weeks ago. I think about 2 weeks ago. But this is from the BBC. And this is about, they always use the term verify. But this is specifically about infiltrating and finding out this information. This is doing it without AI for the most part. This is about people doing it, but they're doing it in deceptive ways. So check this out. This is from the BBC called BBC Verify.
Welcome to BBC Verify. Like you said, we are a team of investigative journalists here at the BBC. We are also a new brand and we are a physical location above the newsroom in London. And the point of the team, as you said, is to verify video, to fact check, to counter disinformation, and to analyse really complex stories so we can get to the truth of what's going on. Why does this matter? Well, mistruths can cause really serious harm to society and to the people in them. And so we want to show you our workings and really help you understand how we get to the bottom of what's happening. And I'm going to give you a bit of a flavour of the kind of work that the team are doing. So we're able to look at maps to geolocate specific situations, stuff that's going on. This is just a map of central London where we are now. And this is New Broadcasting House, where I'm speaking to you from. And it's not so important perhaps for the centre of London, but it is when we're analysing war zones or what's happening in hard to reach places. And there's a story on the BBC website today. It's looking at Russian fortifications on the front lines in Ukraine, and you can read more about it there. And there are other ways that we also are able to interrogate what's going on, including on social media. I have some undercover accounts that I've set up for the BBC's Americast podcast, and we use these kinds of undercover accounts, and these are the characters that the accounts belong to be able to really understand polarization online and how what's happening on our social media feeds and what we're being recommended and pushed to us can affect all of us. And they don't offer us a totally exhaustive insight into what's going on, but they can help us understand just how social media works. And then there's also investigating other mistruths and the real world harm they can cause. At the moment, I'm investigating the UK's conspiracy theory movement. I'm trying to understand more about how it's evolved and intensified since the pandemic here in the UK. I'm looking at the alternative media that finds itself at the heart of this movement, and a conspiracy theory newspaper that's a part of that as well. I'm looking at the way that alternative media is funded. I'm looking at its impact on local communities. I'm looking at its connections with far-right figures, and also its foreign links. That's for a podcast series that will be coming out in June. It's called Mariana in Conspiracy Land, and it will be available on BBC Sounds, Radio 4, asking that question: could January the 6th or a German coup attempt like we saw there ever happen here in the UK? So there's a real range of journalism BBC Verify will be doing, and you'll be able to see it online, on iPlayer, across BBC News, on your televisions and radio, so do look out for it.
Wide range of journalism. That's funny. Yeah, so you could see they're doing it in deceptive way. They want to get rid of all of the ability to be anonymous online. They want to get rid of that, but yet they're going to go ahead and create false accounts in order to infiltrate and to quote unquote investigate what is going on social media. And then of course she specifically talked about conspiracy theories and how they're funded and who's behind them and all this stuff. They're breaking everything down, trying to social listen, try and infiltrate, try and get information that they can do to do nudge warfare, nudge psychological warfare. And this is a part of it. And the UK has been heavy on it. They're now just out there blatantly telling people what they're doing as far as this stuff goes. They've got other stuff that they're not telling us that they're doing. But this is about controlling the narrative. This is the information war that they want to do. And of course, we know at the heart of the information war, we know at the heart of the nudge units is Google and YouTube. They have been at the front of this for a long time. So if we take a look, partnership was formed between the Google and the WHO. No surprise, right? But not only did Google become a nudge unit and censorship authority, but they also handed the WHO $320 million in advertising and search grants to push anything from the coof to monkeypox to climate. Now, what is that? Well, you have to pay to get higher search results. You have to pay to get advertising spots. You have to do all that stuff. And Google basically just gave grants to the WHO, $320 million worth, to just have the WHO flood whatever they want on Google. And it's anything from the coof, monkeypox, climate, to Ebola, to anything else that they want to do. And so far, Google has granted the WHO an additional $50 million in ad grants for this year, for 2023. So they're continuing to push this through. They're continuing to do this. So there is a war on the mind of people. There is a war of information. And this is about not only gathering data, not only manipulating people, but it's also to build up these systems, like their passport systems and their AI systems and all of these things. It's order to build those things up. They need all of this data, and they need to be able to play the game this way until they pull the plug. Obviously, they're still getting some stuff ready. But this is a part of creating this one world government. This is a part of creating the full control of every aspect of somebody's life. And they're coming up with new ways of doing it. I'll be honest. Some of the stuff that I've seen, that I've come across, never even crossed my mind. It never even crossed my mind. It was just here all of a sudden. And I mean, you got to give them credit. I mean, it's evil, but it is genius how they're doing this. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm just, the more I see about this stuff, the more I look at it, the more I'm so thankful that we're not going to be here for that.